The massive hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Its walls were made of crystal that sparkled with light from 1,000 different stars. Outside the giant windows, alien ships floated like metal islands in the darkness of space. Inside the hall, hundreds of different alien species sat in floating chairs that moved through the air without making any sound. Admiral Keogh stood in the center of the hall. His human uniform looked plain and simple compared to the bright colors and strange materials that the aliens wore. Around him, creatures with tentacles for arms pointed at the holographic display that showed Earth's entire military fleet. Some aliens had multiple eyes that blinked in patterns, while others had skin that changed colors as they laughed. The sound of alien laughter filled the air like the buzzing of angry insects. The Vorthak Empire representative stood up from his floating throne. His body was tall and thin, like a tree, but covered in purple scales that reflected the light. His voice was deep and made the floor shake when he spoke. These humans think they can fight us with those tiny metal boxes they call warships, the Vorthak said, while waving his long arms at the display. Look at their largest battleship. It is smaller than the bathroom on one of our scout ships. Their weapons are nothing but simple bullets and basic laser beams. How did these primitive creatures even learn to leave their own planet? More laughter erupted from the alien audience. A creature that looked like a giant spider clicked its legs together in amusement. Another alien that resembled a floating jellyfish made bubbling sounds through the water that surrounded its body. Even the robot representatives from the machine worlds flashed their lights in patterns that meant they were finding the situation funny. Commander Jiho watched everything from the observation deck high above the main floor. His hands were clenched into fists as he listened to the aliens mock his species. He had served in Earth's military for 20 years and had seen human soldiers fight with courage that these aliens could not understand, but he said nothing and just watched as the display showed each human ship in detail. The aliens pointed at the rusty-looking hulls of the human vessels. They laughed at the simple design of the engines. They made jokes about the basic shape of the weapons. The Vorthak representative zoomed in on one of Earth's destroyers, and the entire hall burst into even louder laughter when they saw what looked like patches of metal welded onto the side of the ship. Meanwhile, far away on the human flagship called Defiance, Engineer Hana sat in front of a control panel that glowed with thousands of tiny lights. Her fingers moved quickly across the buttons and switches as she made final adjustments to systems that the aliens could not see through their long-distance scanners. The ship around her hummed with power that was hidden beneath layers of fake metal plating. Hana had spent 5 years working on the prototype technology that was built into every human warship. The aliens saw rusty old metal, but underneath was armor that could change its shape and become harder. Then diamond. The simple-looking engines were actually powered by quantum drives that could bend space and time. The basic weapons were connected to targeting computers that could think faster than any alien brain. The transmission from the Council chambers played on a small screen next to Hana's workstation. She could see the aliens pointing and laughing at her ship. She could hear them calling humans stupid and primitive. A small smile appeared on her face as she activated another hidden system. The Defiance was ready for war, but the aliens would never know until it was too late. Captain Bomi received the official message from the Galactic Council later that same day. She sat in her command chair on the bridge of the Defiance, reading the words that appeared on her personal screen. The message was simple and clear. Earth had 72 hours to surrender completely, or the Vorthak Empire would destroy every human in the galaxy. Along with the surrender demand came a video file that showed the true size of the Vorthak Armada. The captain opened the file and watched in silence as millions of alien warships filled the screen. They stretched across multiple star systems like a metal storm cloud. Each ship was massive and covered in weapons that could destroy planets. The fleet was so large that it blocked out the light from entire suns. Bami had expected this moment for years. She knew that eventually Earth would have to face an enemy that was much stronger and had better technology. The Vorthak Empire had conquered over 300 different worlds and had never lost a single war. Their ships were faster, their weapons were more powerful, and their armies were larger than anything humanity had ever seen. The captain was not afraid. She touched a hidden button on her command chair and activated a secure communication channel that connected directly to Earth Command. The message she sent was only 3 words long, but it would set in motion plans that had been decades in the making. The 3 words were simply, "We are ready, back on Earth." President Tay sat in an underground bunker beneath the city of Seoul. The walls of the room were lined with screens that showed information from every corner of human space. Intelligence reports flowed in constantly telling him about Vorthak ship movements and battle preparations. The numbers were frightening but not unexpected. The president had been briefed years earlier about the possibility of this. War Earth had been preparing in secret ever since humans first encountered other alien species in the galaxy. Every new technology had been designed with this conflict in mind. Every new ship had been built to hide its true capabilities from alien scanners. Every human soldier had been trained to fight against impossible odds. Around the table sat the leaders of Earth's military and scientific communities. They had been working together for decades to prepare for this moment. Each person in the room had dedicated their life to ensuring that humanity would survive when the galaxy finally turned against them. The aliens thought humans were weak and primitive, but they were about to learn how wrong they could be. General Inho spoke first, as he activated a holographic display that showed the real specifications of Earth's military technology. What the aliens had seen was carefully designed to look old and simple, but the truth was very different. Human ships were equipped with adaptive armor that could rebuild itself during battle. Their engines used quantum mechanics to move faster than light in ways that alien science could not detect. Dr. Yura explained how human weapons were designed to look primitive while hiding revolutionary technology. The simple bullets that aliens had laughed at were actually programmable projectiles that could change course in flight and penetrate any known type of armor. The basic laser beams were connected to power sources that could channel the energy of an entire star into a single focused beam. Most importantly, Engineer Damon revealed the secret that would give humanity its greatest advantage. Every human ship was connected to an artificial intelligence network that could learn and adapt in real time during combat. While alien fleets relied on slow communication systems that took time to coordinate their movements, human forces could react instantly to any situation. The meeting continued through the night as final preparations were made. The trap had been set years ago, and now it was time to spring it. The aliens thought they were about to destroy a weak and helpless species, but they were actually walking into the most carefully planned military operation in Galactic. Humanity was ready to show the galaxy what it meant to underestimate the human spirit. 3 days before the Vorthak deadline, Lieutenant Nari sat in her small communications room aboard the Earth station near Mars. Her fingers typed quickly on the keyboard as she prepared the most important lie in human history. The message she was writing would be intercepted by Vorthak spies exactly as planned, and it would make the aliens believe that Earth was about to run away like cowards. The false intelligence report stated that Earth's main fleet would attempt to escape toward the Outer Rim colonies, leaving the homeworld defensively weak. Nari made sure to include detailed ship movements and escape routes that would seem believable to alien military analysts. She even added fake communications between Earth Command and Colony. Governors requesting emergency evacuation ships. Within hours of transmitting the false information, Vorthak listening posts throughout the galaxy picked up the signal. Their codebreakers worked frantically to decrypt what they thought was a secret human message. When they finally read the contents, their commanders smiled with satisfaction. The humans were going to run just as expected, and the Vorthak fleet would be waiting to destroy them. In open space, Captain Minho commanded the decoy fleet. That would play the role of retreating cowards. His 12 ships were older vessels that had been specially modified to produce the right energy signatures when their engines ran at full power. From the outside, they looked like desperate ships, fleeing for their lives, but inside, each vessel was equipped with the same hidden technology as the rest of Earth's military. The decoy fleet flew in formation toward the Kepler system, following a route that would take them far from Earth. Their engines left bright trails of energy that could be detected by Vorthak sensors from light years away. Every few hours, Minho ordered his ships to transmit panicked messages about fuel shortages and engine failures, making it seem like they were barely staying ahead of their pursuers. The Vorthak fleet commanders took the bait immediately. They dispatched 3 full battle groups consisting of over 50,000 warships to intercept what they believed was humanity's main military force, the alien ships, moved into position along the escape route, confident that they would destroy the fleeing humans in a matter of hours. While the aliens focused on the decoy fleet, Dr. Yuna worked day and night in her secret laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, facility was built inside an underwater mountain and was completely hidden from any type of scanning technology. Above her head, fish swam in the dark waters while she put the finishing touches on humanity's most advanced communication system. The quantum entanglement network would connect every human ship in the galaxy through a type of physics that most alien species had not yet discovered. Once activated, the system would allow instant communication across any distance faster than light itself. While alien fleets still relied on radio waves that took time to travel between ships, human forces would coordinate their movements in perfect unity. Dr. Yuna's fingers flew across the control panels as she ran final tests on the quantum transmitters. Each device was smaller than a coin but contained enough processing power to handle communications for an entire fleet. The network had been secretly installed on every human ship over the past 5 years and was now ready to give humanity an advantage that no alien empire could match in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Commander Saiwan supervised the final preparations of what appeared to be simple mining operations. Dozens of asteroids had been hollowed out and converted into massive weapon platforms, but from the outside they still looked like ordinary space rocks. The disguise was so perfect that Vorthak scouts had flown past them dozens of times without noticing anything unusual. Inside each asteroid were guns that could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds. The weapons were not the primitive kinetic launchers that aliens had seen in the council chambers, but precision instruments that could punch holes through any known type of armor or shielding. The projectiles themselves were made of materials that would become even deadlier when they hit their targets. At near light speed, Siwan checked the targeting computers one final time. Each railgun was connected to sensors that could track thousands of targets simultaneously and calculate the exact trajectory needed to hit fast-moving spacecraft. The asteroids were positioned throughout the solar system, creating a defensive network that could strike at any enemy fleet from multiple directions at once. Colonel Yunji coordinated with human civilians living throughout Vorthak-controlled space. For months, ordinary people had been secretly installing quantum beacons near major alien military installations. The beacons looked like simple communication devices, but were actually sophisticated targeting systems that would provide precise location data for Earth's long-range weapons. The installation process had been dangerous and required careful planning. Human traders, merchants and tourists had volunteered to carry the beacons to distant worlds, knowing that discovery would mean death or worse. The devices were hidden inside everyday objects and activated by remote signal when the war began, giving Earth the ability to strike at Vorthak bases across the galaxy. Many of the conquered alien species had secretly helped with the beacon placement operation. They were tired of Vorthak oppression and eager to assist any force that might free them from imperial rule. The humans had been careful to approach only those species that showed signs of resistance, and had built a network of allies that the Vorthak Empire never suspected existed. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the Vorthak fleet moved into attack positions around Earth's solar system. Their massive ships formed a sphere of metal and weapons that completely surrounded the human homeworld. The alien commanders were so confident of victory that they broadcast their battle plans on open channels, treating the upcoming fight as entertainment for the rest of the galaxy. Admiral Vorthak himself commanded the invasion fleet from his flagship, a vessel so large that it had its own gravity and atmosphere. The ship was armed with weapons that could crack planets and shielded by energy barriers that had never been penetrated in thousands of years of warfare. Behind him followed the greatest armada ever assembled, with ships from dozens of conquered worlds, all eager to witness the destruction of the defiant humans. What the aliens did not know was that every transmission they made was being intercepted and analyzed by Earth's quantum computers. The human artificial intelligence systems studied Vorthak tactics and identified weaknesses in their formations. Patterns emerged that revealed how the enemy fleet would respond to different situations, giving Earth Command crucial information about alien military doctrine. The Vorthak formation followed standard Imperial tactics that had conquered hundreds of worlds. The largest ships formed the outer shell, while smaller vessels filled the interior, creating overlapping fields of fire that could destroy any enemy force. The formation was designed to be unbreakable and had never failed in battle, but it was also predictable and rigid, making it vulnerable to unconventional attacks. Back on Earth, President Tay received final reports from military commanders around the globe. Every weapon system was ready, every ship was in position, and every soldier knew their role in the coming battle. The trap had been set over years of careful preparation, and now it was time to spring it on an enemy that had no idea what was about to happen. The president looked at the countdown, timer on his desk showing the hours and minutes remaining until the Vorthak deadline. He thought about all the humans who had worked and sacrificed to reach this moment and felt a sense of pride in his species. The aliens thought they were about to destroy a primitive civilization, but they were actually walking into the most sophisticated military operation in galactic history. In space stations and ships throughout the solar system, human crews made final preparations for battle. They checked their weapons, cleaned their equipment, and said goodbye to loved ones, knowing that many would not survive the coming fight. But there was no fear in their eyes, only determination to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Vorthak Empire approached with overwhelming force and absolute confidence, while humanity waited with hidden strength and carefully planned surprises. In a few hours, the galaxy would discover that appearances could be deceiving and that the human spirit was not so easily broken. The war began exactly as the Vorthak Empire had planned it. Admiral Vorthak watched from his command throne as human ships scattered in all directions like frightened animals. Several Earth vessels broadcast surrender messages on open communication, channels begging for mercy and offering to give up without a fight. The alien commanders laughed and congratulated themselves on another easy victory. The Vorthak fleet moved into their standard attack formation, with the largest battleships taking positions in the front while smaller cruisers and destroyers spread out to surround the fleeing humans. It was a formation that had conquered 300 worlds, and the aliens saw no reason to change tactics against such a weak enemy. Their weapons, powered up and targeting systems, locked onto the closest human ships. That was when Sergeant Kyung activated the first surprise from his position aboard the Earth cruiser Determination. The ship had been broadcasting panic signals and flying in random directions, like a vessel with damaged engines, but suddenly, everything changed. The hull began to shift and flow like liquid metal, revealing sleek weapon ports and advanced sensor arrays that had been hidden beneath false plating all across the solar system. Human ships stopped pretending to be afraid and began their transformation. The rusty-looking exteriors melted away to show vessels that gleamed with unknown technology. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the Vorthak sensors had ever detected, and the simple-looking engine suddenly blazed with power that bent space around them. The first alien casualties came from the asteroid belt, where Commander Siwan had been waiting for this moment. His hidden railguns fired simultaneously, sending tungsten projectiles screaming across millions of kilometers at speeds that approached light itself. The Vorthak shields, which were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles, were completely useless against solid matter. Moving at such incredible velocity, 12 of the largest Vorthak battleships simply disappeared in flashes of light as the railgun projectiles tore through their hulls like paper. The explosions were so bright they could be seen from Earth, and the shockwaves damaged dozens of nearby alien vessels. The Vorthak admiral stared in disbelief as his most powerful ships were destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. Lieutenant Hanna engaged the prototype quantum drives, and suddenly, human ships began moving in ways that violated every known law of physics. They accelerated without visible thrust, changed direction instantly, without worrying about momentum, and seemed to exist in multiple locations at the same time. The quantum entanglement technology allowed vessels to phase partially out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. The Vorthak gunners fired frantically at targets that flickered in and out of existence. Their advanced targeting computers could not lock onto ships that were not entirely present in the same dimension. Missiles passed harmlessly through human vessels that had become quantum ghosts, while laser beams scattered uselessly against hulls that existed in folded space. Captain Jiho coordinated the counterattack from his command ship Resilience. Every human vessel in the solar system was connected through the quantum communication network, sharing sensor data and tactical information faster than thought itself. While Vorthak, ships still waited for radio signals to coordinate their movements. Human forces responded to threats and opportunities with perfect unity. The alien numerical advantage quickly became a disadvantage as human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to force the massive Vorthak fleet into collisions with itself. The enemy formation, which was designed for overwhelming firepower against slow targets, became a chaotic tangle of confused vessels that could not tell friend from enemy in the swirling battle. Human fighters no larger than Vorthak escape pods darted between the alien giants like angry insects. Their adaptive weapons found weak points in enemy armor that should not have existed according to galactic military science. Each fighter was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think and react millions of times faster than any biological brain. The Vorthak Empire had relied on their technological superiority for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt when that technology failed. Their rigid military doctrine had not changed in thousands of years, making their responses predictable and easy to counter once the humans understood their patterns. Every alien move was anticipated and countered before it could be completed. Admiral Vorthak screamed orders at his fleet commanders, demanding to know how primitive humans could be winning against the greatest military force in galactic history. His flagship weapons fired continuously at targets that seemed to dance around the energy beams like they were playing a game. The human ships were not just faster, they were smarter. Dr. Inho had designed the human battle computers to learn from every exchange of fire, analyzing enemy weapons and developing countermeasures in real time. The artificial intelligence systems shared this knowledge instantly across the entire human fleet, so that what one ship learned immediately benefited every other vessel in the battle. The quantum viruses that human infiltrators had planted in Vorthak computer systems began to activate, causing cascading failures throughout the alien network. Ships suddenly targeted their own allies. As friend or foe, identification systems malfunctioned. Navigation. Computers produced random coordinates that sent vessels crashing into asteroids and each other. Life support systems on Vorthak ships began cycling atmospheric mixtures that were toxic to alien physiology. Crews collapsed at their stations as the air they breathed became poison. Emergency systems that should have provided backup power instead overloaded main reactors, causing explosions that tore ships apart from the inside. The aliens' greatest strength, their advanced interconnected technology, had become their greatest weakness. Every connected system was a potential point of failure, and the human viruses spread like wildfire through networks that had been designed for efficiency rather than security. The Vorthak fleet began to tear itself apart without human ships needing to fire a shot. Captain Boram led a squadron of human destroyers in a direct assault on the alien command vessel. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, weaving between enemy fire like dancers performing a deadly ballet. The Vorthak flagship responded with enough firepower to destroy a moon, but the human vessels simply were not there when the weapons arrived. The quantum phase technology allowed human ships to step partially outside of normal space, time making them immune to attacks that existed only in regular dimensions. The aliens watched in horror as their most powerful weapons passed harmlessly through targets that flickered like ghosts before becoming solid again to deliver devastating. Return fire news of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed as automated communication systems broadcast images of the impossible fight species that had been conquered by the Vorthak Empire, watched in amazement as the supposedly primitive humans systematically destroyed what had seemed like an invincible armada. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating to alien morale on worlds throughout Vorthak space. Subject populations began to whisper about the humans who had done the impossible. The Empire had ruled through fear and the demonstration of overwhelming force, but now that force was being broken by beings that the aliens had dismissed as insignificant. The foundation of Vorthak power began to crack. The battle in Earth's solar system continued for hours as human forces pressed their advantage. The alien fleet that had arrived with such confidence was now scattered and broken with ships fleeing in all directions. Many Vorthak vessels simply powered down, their weapons and broadcast surrender signals rather than face destruction by the terrifying human technology. As the immediate threat to Earth ended, Captain Jiho opened a communication channel to the surviving Vorthak ships. His message was simple and delivered in perfect alien language. The humans offered safe passage to any enemy vessel that ceased hostile actions immediately. It was an act of mercy that no Vorthak commander had ever experienced in centuries of conquest. The first phase of the war was over, and humanity had achieved something that no other species in galactic history had accomplished. They had faced the Vorthak Empire at the height of its power and emerged victorious. But this was only the beginning. The real test would come when the aliens recovered from their shock and brought the full weight of their 300 conquered worlds to bear against Earth. News of Earth's unexpected victory spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Automated communication networks carried video footage of human ships destroying Vorthak battleships to every corner of known space species that had lived under alien rule for centuries, watched in disbelief as the empire that had seemed unbeatable was humiliated by beings they had never heard of before. On the industrial world of Kepler 7, factory workers stopped their machines to watch. The battle recordings, Zarathi laborers who had been building Vorthak warships for decades, suddenly realized that their oppressors could be defeated. The news sparked hope in hearts that had forgotten what freedom felt like. And within hours, secret resistance groups began forming in hidden meeting places. Major Dane led the most dangerous mission of the war as he and his team infiltrated the damaged Vorthak command vessel during the chaos of battle. Using personal cloaking devices based on The same quantum technology as their ships, the humans moved like invisible ghosts through corridors filled with confused and panicking alien crew members. The infiltration team had trained for years to operate inside Vorthak vessels, studying captured alien technology and learning the layout of enemy ships. Their mission was to plant quantum viruses directly into the central computer core where they could spread throughout the entire Imperial communication network. The viruses were designed to turn the aliens' advanced technology against itself. Dane and his soldiers moved through the massive ship avoiding security patrols and automated defense systems. The Vorthak flagship was so large that it contained entire cities with millions of crew members from dozens of different species. Most were slaves or conquered peoples forced to serve the Empire, and many looked the other way when they glimpsed the cloaked human infiltrators. The team reached the computer core after hours of careful movement through maintenance tunnels and abandoned sections of the ship. The core itself was a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with energy and contained the collected knowledge of hundreds of conquered civilizations. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dr. Sora activated the quantum virus insertion device and watched as streams of code flowed into the alien computer system. The viruses were works of art created by the finest human programmers and designed to exploit weaknesses in Vorthak software architecture that the aliens did not even know existed. Within minutes, the infection began to spread. The viral attack caused immediate and devastating results throughout the Vorthak fleet. Ships began targeting their own allies as identification systems malfunctioned and displayed random targets. Navigation computers produced coordinates that led vessels into asteroid fields and gravity wells. Life support systems cycled toxic atmospheres that killed crews. At their stations, the Empire had become so dependent on automated systems that they had forgotten how to operate their ships manually. When the computers failed, the aliens found themselves helpless aboard vessels. They could no longer control thousands of years of technological advancement became a curse as every connected device turned into a potential weapon against its users. Captain Wanho commanded the first human liberation fleet as it departed Earth for the Vorthak-controlled Zentari system. The task force consisted of 30 ships equipped with the latest adaptive technology and crewed by volunteers who knew they might not return. The mission was to free the first conquered world and prove that human victory at Earth was not just luck. The journey to Zentari Prime took 3 days using conventional faster-than-light travel, but the quantum communication network allowed the fleet to coordinate with resistance fighters on the planet's surface in real-time. Human agents who had been secretly placed throughout Vorthak space years earlier suddenly revealed themselves and began activating hidden weapons caches. The Zentari people had been enslaved for over 2 centuries and had long ago given up hope of freedom. But when they saw footage of human ships destroying Vorthak battleships, something awakened in their hearts that had been sleeping for generations. Secret meetings were held in underground tunnels where plans for rebellion were made. Dr. Inho revealed the true scope of human preparation when he activated sleeper agents throughout the galaxy. These were not spies or saboteurs, but humans who had volunteered for scientific exchange programs for decades. Each carried dormant nanotechnology that suddenly came online and began replicating throughout Vorthak infrastructure systems. The nanobots were designed to look like beneficial maintenance systems that improved efficiency and reduced wear on alien equipment. But when activated, they began systematically weakening critical components and creating backdoors in security systems. The aliens had welcomed these helpful little machines into their most secure facilities without realizing the danger. On Vorthak Prime, the capital world of the Empire, the Emperor himself emerged from his palace for the first time in over a century. His appearance shocked the population because most had believed he was merely a legend. The ancient ruler was thousands of years old and had personally conquered half the galaxy. But now he faced something he had never encountered before. The Emperor called for an emergency session of the High Command, bringing together military leaders from across the Empire. Many arrived on ships that were barely functional, due to the spreading computer viruses. Others had to travel by primitive backup systems that took days instead of hours. The mighty Vorthak war machine was grinding to a halt. Captain Borum led the liberation of Zentari Prime as human ships emerged from quantum phase travel directly above the planet's surface. The sudden appearance of the fleet caused panic among Vorthak orbital defenses, but their weapons systems had been compromised by the spreading viruses. Most alien ships could do nothing but watch as human forces attacked with surgical precision. The quantum beacons that had been secretly installed by human agents provided perfect targeting data, allowing the Liberation Fleet to strike Vorthak military installations while avoiding civilian areas. Zentari cities that had lived under martial law for centuries watched in amazement as their oppressors' fortresses exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The human attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Instead of the brutal bombardment that aliens expected, the Liberation Fleet brought medical supplies, food, and communication equipment. The humans offered partnership rather than conquest, and treated the Zentari as equals rather than subjects to be ruled within. Hours of the planet's liberation, Zentari engineers were working alongside human technicians to adapt quantum technology for use by other species. The aliens had always assumed that advanced technology belonged only to superior races, but the humans proved that knowledge shared became more powerful when it was freely given. The psychological impact of Zentari Prime's liberation rippled throughout the Empire. Vorthak commanders who had never lost a battle suddenly found themselves facing rebellion. On dozens of worlds simultaneously, the rigid imperial system that had maintained order through fear began to collapse as subject species realized their chains could be broken. General Minho coordinated the largest military operation in human history. As liberation fleets departed Earth for targets throughout Vorthak space, the ships were crewed not only by humans but by volunteers from newly freed worlds who brought their own knowledge of alien technology and local conditions. Each fleet carried the same message of hope and freedom. The Vorthak military doctrine, which had not changed in millennia, proved completely inadequate against human tactics. The aliens expected enemies to fight according to established rules of warfare, but humans ignored conventions and created new strategies that exploited weaknesses in imperial thinking. The empire that had ruled through predictable force found itself facing chaos on world after world, the pattern repeated as human fleets arrived to support local rebellions. Vorthak garrisons that had maintained control through superior firepower suddenly faced enemies who could phase in and out of reality while coordinating attacks through instantaneous communication. The aliens' technological advantage disappeared overnight. The Emperor watched from his throne room as red lights appeared on the galactic map indicating worlds lost to rebellion. His empire, which had stood for thousands of years, was crumbling in a matter of weeks. The humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had inspired hope in species that had forgotten what it meant to be free, as reports of defeat poured in from across the galaxy. The Emperor realized that the Vorthak Empire was facing not just a military challenge, but a revolution of ideas. The humans fought not just with advanced weapons, but with concepts that were more powerful than any technology. They offered dignity, respect, and the chance for every species to determine its own destiny among the stars. The Vorthak Empire, which had stood unchallenged for over 5,000 years, began to fall apart like a house built on Sand World after World declared independence as the news of human victories spread through the galaxy. The Emperor who had ruled from the shadows for centuries was forced to appear in public more often as his generals demanded guidance that he no longer knew how to give. Emperor Vorthak the Eternal was not the mythical figure that most aliens believed him to be. He was ancient, beyond measure but also tired and set in his ways. The strategies that had conquered hundreds of worlds no longer worked against an enemy that fought with imagination instead of just superior technology. His appearance in the Imperial throne room shocked military commanders who had never seen him look uncertain. General Wanho coordinated humanity's most daring operation yet as he prepared to lead a direct assault on the Vorthak homeworld itself. The attack fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, consisting not just of human ships, but vessels from dozens of newly liberated species, all equipped with adapted versions of Earth's revolutionary technology. The combined armada stretched across several star systems and included former Vorthak vessels that had been captured and converted by their original crews. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side, united by the common goal of ending imperial tyranny. The sight of the massive fleet was enough to cause entire Vorthak sector commands to surrender without firing. A shot Captain Yuki commanded a squadron of converted Zentari warships that had been upgraded with human quantum technology. The Zentari had always been skilled engineers, but under Vorthak rule, they had been forced to build weapons for their oppressors. Now they used their talents to create ships that combined the best of both human and alien design principles. The liberation fleets moved through space like schools of fish, each ship connected to the others through quantum communication networks that allowed perfect coordination across impossible distances. Human tactical doctrine emphasized flexibility and adaptation, while alien species contributed their own unique advantages and local knowledge. Commander Jisoo discovered the Empire's greatest weakness during the siege of their outer defense systems. The Vorthak had become so dependent on their technological superiority that they had forgotten how to improvise. When that technology failed, their military academies taught rigid doctrine that had not changed in thousands of years, making their responses predictable. When Vorthak ships lost their computer systems to human viruses, the crews found themselves unable to operate even basic functions. Many aliens had never learned manual controls because automated systems had always handled everything for them. Entire fleets became helpless when their artificial intelligence networks were compromised. Human approach was completely different. Earth military training emphasized the ability to function without technology, and every human soldier knew how to fight with primitive weapons if necessary. This flexibility allowed human forces to adapt quickly to changing battlefield conditions, while alien forces remained bound by doctrine. Dr. Taman led the scientific team that developed the ultimate prototype weapon, a device that could temporarily disrupt the quantum foundations of space-time itself. The weapon was based on the same principles as human phase technology, but instead of protecting ships, it could destabilize the molecular bonds that held matter together. The quantum disruptor was installed on the flagship Unity and required the combined power output of 12 fusion reactors to operate. When activated, it created a field that made it impossible for complex technology to function normally. Vorthak ships caught in the field found their hulls becoming unstable and their systems failing catastrophically. The final battle of the war took place in the space around Vorthak Prime, where the Emperor had assembled the last loyal remnants of his once mighty fleet. Over 10 million ships from across the Empire gathered for what everyone knew would be the decisive engagement. The aliens still outnumbered the liberation forces by a significant margin. Emperor Vorthak himself took command of the battle from his personal dreadnought, a vessel so massive that it generated its own gravity field and had cities built inside its hull. The ship was armed with weapons that could destroy stars and protected by shields that had never been penetrated in 5,000 years of warfare. The Liberation Fleet emerged from quantum phase travel in perfect formation, with human ships leading the charge while Allied vessels provided support fire. The combined armada moved like a single organism, with every ship connected through the quantum communication network that allowed Instantaneous coordination, Admiral Sunho commanded the human forces from the Bridge of the Unity as the quantum disruptor charged to full power. The weapon would only have one chance to work because the energy requirements were so enormous that, firing it would drain the ship's power systems completely. The timing had to be perfect. The Vorthak fleet opened fire with weapons that lit up the darkness of space, like artificial suns. Their energy output was so intense that it could be detected from neighboring star systems. But the Liberation ships simply phased out of normal space-time, allowing the devastating attacks to pass harmlessly through empty space. When the human ships returned to normal reality, they were already inside the Vorthak. Formation striking at close range where the aliens' massive weapons could not be brought to bear. The surprise attack caused chaos as enemy ships found themselves under fire from directions they had thought were impossible. Engineer Ari activated the quantum disruptor at the moment when the Vorthak fleet was most concentrated. The invisible field expanded outward at the speed of light, encompassing thousands of enemy vessels in seconds. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly found their hulls becoming unstable as molecular bonds weakened. Vorthak crews watched in horror as their vessels began to fall apart around them. Metal bulkheads became as fragile as paper, and advanced alloys reverted to their component elements. The aliens' most powerful weapons became useless, as the technology that created them simply stopped working. The Emperor himself experienced something no Vorthak ruler had ever faced before, as his mighty dreadnought began to shake apart his personal. Shields failed, his weapons powered down, and his ship started breaking into pieces. The vessel that had been a symbol of imperial power became a drifting wreck in a matter of minutes. Faced with the complete collapse of his fleet, the Emperor did something that shocked every alien in the galaxy. He requested a personal meeting with the human military commanders. His ancient pride was finally broken by the realization that he had encountered something beyond his understanding. Captain Tai Yang accepted the surrender aboard the flagship Unbroken, where representatives from dozens of liberated species gathered to witness the end of an era. The Emperor arrived in a simple shuttle, having abandoned his damaged dreadnought. He was an impressive figure despite his defeat, tall and regal with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. The ancient ruler spoke in a voice that carried the weight of millennia as he admitted that in all his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered a species like humanity. The humans had combined technological innovation with tactical brilliance and, most importantly, the ability to inspire others to fight for freedom rather than mere survival. The formal surrender ceremony was broadcast throughout. The galaxy, as species that had lived in fear for generations, watched their former oppressor kneel before representatives of the liberation forces. The Emperor signed documents that dissolved the Vorthak Empire and guaranteed freedom for all conquered. Worlds as the Emperor's signature appeared on the final page of the surrender documents. Cheers erupted from ships throughout the Liberation fleet. The sound was picked up by communication systems and transmitted across space, carrying the news of victory to every corner of the galaxy. The age of Vorthak tyranny was finally over. The war had lasted less than 6 months, but it had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The empire that had seemed eternal was broken, and in its place rose something new, a confederation of free worlds united by the principles that humanity had brought to the stars. Hope had triumphed over fear, and freedom had proven stronger than tyranny. General Kang delivered the final message of the war as he spoke to the assembled fleet. The humans had achieved something that no other species had thought possible, but the real victory was not in the defeat of the Vorthak Empire, but in the proof that all sentient beings deserved the right to determine their own destiny among the stars. The war's end brought changes to galactic civilization that no one had imagined possible. The former Vorthak Empire broke apart into hundreds of independent worlds, most of which eagerly joined the new galactic federation that humanity proposed. The old system of conquest and domination was replaced by principles of cooperation and mutual respect that seemed revolutionary after millennia of imperial rule. President Dayun stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Congress, where representatives from over 1,000 worlds gathered in a space station built specifically for the historic occasion. The station orbited a neutral star at the center of the galaxy and was designed by architects from dozens of different species working together. For the first time in galactic history, the new Congress Hall was unlike the old Vorthak Council chambers, where alien species had been forced to bow before their conquerors. Instead, every representative sat at the same level in a circular arrangement. That emphasized equality. The walls were made of transparent crystal that showed the stars beyond, reminding everyone that they shared the same galaxy. President Dayon announced that Earth would freely share all of its revolutionary technology with any species committed to peaceful coexistence and mutual defense. The quantum communication networks that had given humanity its military advantage would become the foundation for unprecedented cooperation across the galaxy. Knowledge that had been hoarded by the Empire would now flow freely between worlds. The announcement caused excitement throughout the assembly, as species that had been kept technologically backward by Vorthak policy realized they would finally have access to advanced science. Representatives from agricultural worlds spoke of dreams to terraform hostile planets, while mining colonies discussed plans for deep space exploration. Admiral Sunho oversaw the transformation of Earth's war fleets into exploration and peacekeeping forces. The same ships that had battled for humanity's survival were converted for scientific missions and diplomatic voyages. The quantum phase drives that had made them invisible to enemy weapons now allowed them to explore dangerous regions of space that had never been visited before. The adaptive technologies that had won the war proved equally valuable for peaceful purposes. Human ships could now survive in the crushing gravity wells of neutron stars or the radiation fields around black holes. Scientists from every species worked together to push the boundaries of what was possible in space exploration. Dr. Miran established the Galactic Institute of Technology, where the finest minds from across the galaxy collaborated on projects. That would have been impossible under the old Empire. Species that had been enemies for centuries now shared their knowledge, freely creating breakthroughs in physics, medicine, and engineering that benefited everyone. The Institute became a symbol of the new galactic order, where diversity was seen as strength rather than weakness. Each species contributed unique perspectives and capabilities that enhanced the work of all the others. The Zentari brought their engineering skills, the Kefri shared their understanding of biology, and the Toran contributed their mastery of mathematics. Captain Heon led the first joint exploration mission to the galactic core, where ancient mysteries waited to be solved. The expedition included ships and crews from 20 different species, all working together to investigate phenomena that had puzzled scientists for millennia. The mission was a success, not just scientifically, but as proof that cooperation was more powerful than competition. Greatest surprise came when archaeologists studying old Vorthak records discovered that Earth was not the first species to resist the Empire successfully. Dozens of worlds had fought back over the millennia, but they had always fought alone and been overwhelmed by superior numbers. The secret of humanity's success was not advanced technology, but the ability to unite others in common cause. Records showed that brave species like the Althari and the Nexum had developed their own revolutionary weapons and tactics, but had been defeated because they could not inspire other worlds to join their cause. Humanity had succeeded where others failed by proving that freedom was worth fighting for and that all species deserved dignity and respect. The most important discovery was that the galaxy was full of ancient ruins left by civilizations that had existed before the Vorthak Empire. These predecessor species had achieved incredible advances in science and philosophy, but had been destroyed or scattered when the Empire began its expansion. the new Federation made it a priority to study these ruins and preserve their knowledge. Exploration teams found evidence of technologies even more advanced than what humans had developed, including methods of faster-than-light travel that did not require quantum phase drives and energy sources that could power entire civilizations without depleting natural resources. The galaxy was full of wonders that had been hidden or destroyed by imperial policy. The economic transformation was as dramatic as the political changes. The Vorthak system had been based on extraction and exploitation, with conquered worlds forced to send their resources to the imperial core. The new Federation operated on principles of fair trade and mutual benefit, where every world could develop its own economy and keep the profits. Commander Saiwan established the Galactic Trade Commission, which ensured that commercial relationships between worlds were fair and beneficial to all parties. The Commission prevented the exploitation that had characterized the old empire and helped developing worlds gain access to advanced technology and markets.